Hello, I'm about to start streaming again, and today what I'm going to be doing is taking a 3D composition I put together in my first episode and turning it into a piece of 2D art. If you saw my first episode, you'll probably notice that um, I've added a lizard man to the back of the crocodile. Before I just had this crocodile attacking the ghost elf, and I had this composition to sort of stop being so side-on with a lot of my compositions and actually look at different angles where I can come up with something a bit more exciting. And I settled on this kind of angle here. And then also in Blender, I played with the direction of the sun. I have that kind of power in this world. And I just moved it with my mind and my left mouse button until I got something I quite like. And I quite like having, the stuff in the foreground having quite dark values. So the pale ghost elf is still going to be well lit. And he'll probably be with a darker background there, so he really pops. And this will be coming out of the swamp with water and weeds and just feeling a little bit more grounded. So the main point of focus is going to be this guy. So what I'm going to do is I took a screenshot of that, took it into Photoshop, and I actually removed some of the background. So yeah, now I can just first of all make these shapes a lot better and sketch in some details as well that I want to start to work on. If I bring this up, oh no, I was going to show you my previous illustration, not illustration, block out, but I have deleted it. So I'm just going to start drawing. And by drawing, I mean I take my smudge tool and I'm going to play with some of these shapes. Smudge tool, I love. Far better than drawing because you can make mistakes and keep playing with them. Look, I've already got a tongue coming out of this lizard guy here, and we can start to put in spikies. Start to think about what this hand will be doing. And yeah, I can pull in the values that I've already created. I don't have to color pick and start redrawing values in. Got all the values I need basically already for you can be a bit spiky along the back here. This is going to be his tail. I'm going to pull in some of that light hitting value there. See, his tail's a bit all over the place here, but that's why I block it in so roughly. So I'm not tied to shapes and details already. I've got so much freedom to play and explore with different. See, I can take that along the leg there as a top ridge. This can be thicker. Got a little bit of light hitting this here, which is really nice. And his foot comes there, so I might establish some of this lighter value here. But no, I want the tail to be hitting here. So again, just smudge tool to your heart's content. There's no mistakes that can be made. You can undo if you need to, but I usually just keep smudging. Just move that value. Cool. So today's mission is just to get these shapes looking really cool, and I might even do some drawing over the top too to get in other details. So we can have this whole back carries on here. copy this. Try and break up the cubiness of this. Even this curve isn't very nice at the moment. Some knuckle action there. But again, I'm not worrying too much at details at this point. Some of the details are going to just present themselves with happy accidents. I see him holding a sort of reins, or, you know, part of the creature's saddle set up here. Already, Lizard Man's getting a bit of character. And I like to use the smudge tool as my eraser too. I just smudge out bits I don't want. Getting rid of some of that cylinder shape there. This is the Croc's back. I'm wondering if I'm going to have it, you know, a saddle here, or if he just goes bareback. I'd say Lizard Man just goes bareback. He's not even wearing pants. What's he going to want a saddle for? Yeah, you can even maybe carry on some of that light here to get a ribcage chest going. Maybe too much. It's got a bit of a cool twist going on there. So already quite liking that. I'm going to move on from him. I've got enough going on there that I'm happy with. The spear, of course, in this dark area, I'm going to want the highlights to sort of make it pop. Okay, a bit of that. This rope could confuse things, so I'll pull that back. Right, crocodile head. And again, I'm not using reference at this point because I just want cool shapes. When it comes to solving maybe problems I've got a bit later on, I'll look at reference to make sure I've got the semblance of a croc, but you know, this is a fantasy race on a fantasy planet. It's croc-like, but it might have sort of spikes and all stuff coming off the sides here. I think its eye will be here, but what will its eye be like? Will it be glowing? And yeah, I should look at some reference. So where does a crocodile's eye normally go? Is it here, or is it back here? Could be back there. But at this point, just playing, and if I come into problems that I'm like, this isn't looking quite right or cool, I will go get reference. And I have drawn crocs in the past, so I've got a little bit of idea for concepts for giant crocs and Icarus, which you'll be coming across in the next expansion, known as the Ghost Croc. Did quite a bit of research there on crocodiles, so I'm hoping a bit of that sticks and is in my mental library, which is what we call stuff we learn as we research it and do it. So that's why it's always good to like go to a zoo and sketch animals and that. Build up your mental library. black and white of this is already looking pretty cool, actually. So yeah, I'm going to put some ridge lines along here. Lizard Man's pretty awesome, actually. And that's not me blowing my own horn, I'm giving the Lizard Man a compliment. I don't want to take any of his thunder, it's just looking great as a Lizard Man. I was very specific on this arm to try catch light. So it can be quite shadowy here on this side of the face. So this is to catch the light of, yeah, just to give it shapes and stuff. I'll probably get some sort of, maybe I'll find a brush that does scales. Might hand paint in just a touch of the scales that are hitting the light. Enough to hint at what the scale action is. Wouldn't mind maybe having the start of a hand here. Is that going to look crazy? Maybe it will. I can always remove it. But smudge tooling. Yeah, and getting rid of whatever looks too 3D. You can see this is a shadow from the spear here, and because it was on a cube, it was right angles, but because I'm now making this arm cylindrical, I'll see if I still want to keep that shadow on there. Sometimes it can get confusing if you do stuff like that. We'll see if that works. Looks cool. At the moment, it looks a bit like it's part of the anatomy. So it could be quite faded eventually, just to feel like that shadow. And do crocodiles have thumbs? Just wondering, would I have a thumb here? Again, research. I don't like that, so I'm going to just push that back for now. He doesn't need a thumb. Something weird going on with the mouth here. So we'll have more lower jaw, less upper jaw. Alright. And with this, I might even steal a little bit of this colour here. Go on a new layer and just see, would there be this shape? I think there would. I think there would. So this wouldn't be, oh, maybe it'll, you wouldn't see it. Don't know, folks. We'll go with it for now. Again, I can see, I can quickly go to my little 3D one, and how far do I need to move? Not much before I start to see the top side here, whereas at the moment I'm drawing it almost like you're seeing it quite side on. So yeah, I might cheese that. I'm actually a bit disappointed I didn't get this light hitting in my picture there. I can fake it. Lizard Man's pretty cool. Crocodile needs a little bit of work. But yeah, this is, oh, so I'll blend that in. I'm happy with that. So catch the light there, and then the teeth will have their shadow here. And maybe we even give them a bit of a, what do you call this? Sort of hang jaw, hang tooth, overbite. Don't like that, but we can push that in. Maybe it's more this way. It's kind of cool. A lot of this is in shadow. We'll want to add some detail here because we don't want it too dark. Still have to figure out where his eye is. Maybe Maybe give him 4 eyes. And that'll solve all my problems. Don't even need to get the eye right. These are corrupted crocodiles, you know. Mutated by the evil misery in the swamp. Gotta be careful not to lose that spear. So for now, he'll have a nostril around here too. Okay. Pretty happy with, I think there's enough there. He'll probably have some muscle going on there. I won't do a saddle because that'll just complicate things. This guy's foot probably make them quite big. Probably too big, but again, change that when we feel like it. I think I've got to figure out his eye here. Do I? Maybe. There might be a bit of liquefying coming in here just to, or should I just push this? It's feeling very thick at the moment, which is good, but long reptilians also good. I didn't really see him as a chunky boy. The shadows cast on this. This is a fallen tree stump. It's going to be very moss-ridden, slippery, where this ghost elf is making their last stand. So we'll start figuring out what this looks like. Break up that very square shape using my smudge tool as an eraser. A very ineffectual eraser, but we got there. So this should hopefully all lead the eye to the ghost elf. Kind of losing the shadow of this, but I'll paint it back in. It's too dark at the moment anyway. So we'll just keep making this feel like a log. Again, you could use reference. Drawn a few logs in my time, so I sort of just do a bit of that, and because it's mossy, you might have a few things hanging off it, a few reeds and stuff. Okay. Bit of work on the ghost elf. This will be the toughest one. Because lizard men can get away with a lot by just drawing whatever you feel like and saying that's a lizard man, because there's no sort of established must-have lizard man. But ghost elf, I'm going to want like a face here. Got to get the face looking cool and elvish. Give him some, big ears. So we've already his head's at the wrong angle. I sort of wanted it angled like that. I use massive cylinders for his arms, so we're going to knock those right back and hold him like that. Look at those arms, gun show. I've got to remind him you're a delicate ghost elf. So let's delicate him up quite a bit. And yeah, his foot probably comes down here. Again, legs like tree trunks. He's losing a lot of dynamism in his pose. kind of just standing there. But if we make this feel like a knee, not so much a straight leg, and then curve that, that might give him a little bit of an interesting leg shape there. Should bring up some of Lena's concept she's done for these ghost elves, so I get the clothing and gear properly that they wear. Because otherwise she'll come out and say, Matt, why do I even bother concepting these things if you totally change them in the next sketch? Again, not very dynamic pose at the moment. He's looking quite static. But we can fix that with time and maybe liquefy. Stuff like that. And yeah, we're going to figure out his head. With the neck. Feel like the head's too upright, so I'm going to probably cut it off. Paste it back on though. I believe ghost elves can survive a few minutes without their heads, part of their new lore maybe. It's just yeah. See, I think what's going to change this whole, give him a little bit of burn under that arm there. It's very pale. Yeah. What's going to change this whole pose is the angle of his head. So let's chop it off. As I said, should be able to survive for a little bit. And then we play, maybe with some transform, crazy. Maybe something there. Maybe get in there. Move it a bit. See, I think what's going to have it is if grab that burn tool. Let's just put in the nose. Like if we put the nose right down here and like the eyes. And so maybe the hair comes here, and even then I'm like, what's going on here? Angle that more. Maybe. He's very small. I'm going to enlarge it, I think, because I've made it quite small now. Maybe some wild hair here. Ghost elf hair. Magnificently flying in the wind. Angle. Again, I'll probably get reference at some point, but getting close-ish. Let's angle this ear a bit to be interesting. It's not too bad. Bigger head. Go back to the body. I want him to be shirtless. They don't really wear too much clothing. They're quite a feral. Oh, might put that there. But they're quite a feral race. Pale skin. Lots of berry paint. Berries which fight off the corruption all over them. Hey there, Mr. Cookies. I am working on a piece of art for a campaign that I'm writing. It's for the Swamp of Souls. And these guys both live in their evil race of lizardmen, of course, and ghost elves. And to get this composition, I last session made a really little 3D mock-up in Blender, just so I could come up with an interesting composition for it, because at the start I was like really side on, like almost like that, which is cool. It tells a story, but I wanted something more interesting, so I ended up playing with lights and things till I came up with this sort of composition. And now I'm going through with the smudge tool and sort of blocking out shapes. Predominantly working on with the smudge tool here, and dodge and burn because I'm working in grayscale to make my shapes. And this guy's supposed to be shirtless, but he looks like he's wearing clothes at the moment. You can have pants, elf pants. Yeah. So I've got a video channel that's sort of covering my development of the Swamp of Souls. It's got, I don't know if you play role-playing games or not, but it's got lots of encounters that are going to occur there that people can play test, things like that. But also I have a lot of people that follow my channel, they're just interested in art and different approaches. This one is my dodge burn smudge approach, which I like because you don't have to get your sketches right straight away. You can just keep playing. Loincloth. Can't remember if my ghost elves wear loincloths. I think they do. They're very primitive. Ah, I love that Call of Cthulhu. I watch Glass Cannon Network. They play it a lot. And it's really cool how easily you can die in that game, and how normal you are, but how freaky it gets. In the Glass Cannon Network show, though, they've played about 3 seasons without, I think, one of their characters died, which is kind of unheard of in Call of Cthulhu, right? Everyone dies horrible deaths at some point. That's half the fun. So my ghost elf's taking a bit of shape, and what I want to do is also get a lot of background stuff going that highlights certain things. So ghost elf, very pale, so I don't want him to get lost in this light green. I'll sort of darken this part up. It's quite foggy, the swamp. So I get to do a lot of tricks with fog to... There's multiple variation, with some of them a bit more pulpy, so you can have more gunfights without anyone dying. Oh, that's cool. The one I saw was set in, I think, the 1920s, but I think there's quite a 1980s version out or something like that now as well, right? Are you 1920s? Either way, it's a really cool system as well. I really like the sort of insanity mechanic, and I've got a little bit of that here. There's like, I've put a misery mechanic in here where the corruption of the swamp can wear you down, make you it's almost just like levels of exhaustion, but It's more a mental thing, misery. This is my second YouTube stream as well, so it's good to know it is being seen. I'm never quite sure if I'm actually streaming or just talking to myself. So appreciate the chat. $30,000 BC. That's awesome. So what were you? Is that? Yeah. I did a little bit on Twitch. I've got like 7 followers on Twitch. And I was thinking, oh, it's going to take a while to build that up. And I've got a good following on YouTube. I think I've got like 11,000 subscribers. So yeah, my next thing I'm going to look at is how I just do both at the same time, which I think is quite possible. Because I quite like Twitch. I like its setup and management center. But yeah, if you watch on Twitch, it's the same sort of name too. It's at World Builder Matt. Could be my 8th follower. I'd appreciate it. Yeah, but 30,000 BC, is that? God, I'm going to sound like a fool. Is that caveman time, or is it sort of like early Egyptian or something like that? I have to do my history. It's got to be really primitive though, right? Yeah, it'll be incredibly primitive. Yes. Cool. That actually would be a really good setting for Call of Cthulhu, because you'd have so much superstition and already fear at a lot of things. How would they explain to themselves what a Call of Cthulhu manifestation is? I didn't even know that was possible. That sounds really cool, actually. Oops. Then I might put a bit of color dodge through here. Problem is my lizard man is more obvious at the moment than my ghost elf. But that's okay, because I can still darken this. Maybe I'll... And then the lizard man can be in the light levels. The ghost elf in the dark. Ooh. See, this is almost Call of Cthulhu 30,000 BC. Right. Now, has he still got a... Yeah, he's still headless. So I might even try change the angle with a bit of warp tool, so he's even more angle. It's cool. Yeah, so the story with this ghost elf is they're quite a, as I said, feral kind of race. So they hunt crocodiles, and this is a young guy that went on a rite of passage to hunt a crocodile to become, you know, the next batch of crocodile hunters, which are quite revered amongst the ghost elves. It's their whole way of life. But in my original approach, he was going to have bitten off more than he can chew, and have tried to hunt this giant old croc of the swamp called Old Shagoo, and you can see he's thrown a spear in him there. And I was going to have the party come across him so they could make a decision. Do they help him? Maybe find a way into this quite reclusive ghost elf tribe? But now I've added a lizard man to the back of the crocodile, and these lizard men, they're sort of what's behind the corruption in the swamp. They are capturing souls, torturing souls, driving them insane, keeping them in soul jars. So we might be carrying a few soul jars here, and they spread them throughout the swamp to spread the misery and corruption. That's usually how the party gets involved in coming to the Swamp of Souls, because either a loved one's gone missing there, or they hear that there's almost a sort of gold rush where prospectors are finding these soul jars with powerful souls in them, and either selling them to an underground necromancer black market, or taking them to a race of created called the Heron Folk monks, who are trying to rehabilitate these tortured souls through their meditation practices and chants, because they live in the swamp and they're trying to end the corruption. And that sort of opens up a whole chain where you start to figure out, are you part of the problem and just want to cash in on these tortured souls, or do you want to stop it and figure out what's causing it? And that's sort of the mystery at the heart of it. It involves what these lizard men are worshipping and learning from. Oh, appreciate the follow too. I think that notification means you followed me on Twitch, which is awesome. Because originally I was streaming on Twitch on this software I'm using, OBS Studio, so I think it's still hooked up and gives me notifications. I'm going to have to learn how to stream on both at the same time. I'm pretty sure it's easy. Yeah, so what could your players get out of these tortured souls? So the idea is, I've sort of set up this whole ecosystem where there's these heron folk monks, which are like tall crane people, and they live in the swamp up on this sort of city along a cliffside called Roost, and they live in these big nests, and they welcome visitors and things. They're a peaceful order of monks, And they pay quite well for these soul jars, because it's almost their monastic order is to try bring peace to the swamp and peace to these tortured spirits, which is quite a new thing for them. Now they have quite a bit of money because they make this very sought after rice wine called Black Mooch. And so as a monastic order, they've been selling this rice wine to noble kingdoms and stuff for years, and have a good amount of money in their vaults, which they don't really know what to do with, but now they've started paying for these soul jars. So at first, for low-level parties, it's almost greed, you know. It's a way to make good coin, finding these soul jars that can be hung around different areas of the swamps, and wherever they're hung, there's all sorts of warped corruption that happens around it. So even some of the land, I've got an encounter called the Stump, where one was rested on a stump, and now the stump's absorbed this tortured soul, and its root system has snakes out and actually has pulled down, grabbed people and pulled them into the earth and killed them and fed on them, and now they're almost like puppets on the end of its vast root system. So different old adventuring types, like a wizard with, you know, he's a skeleton now, but he's still got his beard and old robes, and he can still maybe fire cantrips, can rise up with his root system all holding on to him. So yeah, at the start there's money, but it also might be that maybe, because these lizard men are also slavers, of course, they'll venture out of the swamp and raid villages and stuff, so that they can take the villagers back to the center of the swamp where all this nasty stuff is happening, and torture these, kill these people, take their souls, torture them, and so there might be family involved for party members, where they've gone to find out why someone disappeared, where the lizard slavers took them, and it takes them into this whole ecosystem of the swamp with all these story arcs and races and people with different... There's a druidic order in there as well, that an old druidic shamanistic order of ghost elves that are trying to also bring the swamp back to its... It was once like a swamp, but like quite a diverse biome, a biosphere with rich in life and things like that, but it's become corrupted. And I'll give you the secret of the corruption. Maybe I won't. Well, in D&D, it's the thing that normally corrupts a swamp, and that's this undead, not undead, sleeping black dragon that a prophet has usurped and claims to speak on behalf of this sleeping black dragon, but they have their own motives, and so they draw on the power of the black dragon to pass this corruption, carry on this misery and corruption into the swamp as the black dragon sleeps. And then the lizard men worship this prophet, because lizard men worship black dragons in a lot of D&D lore. And yeah, I was thinking, you know, soul jars, the value of them can depend on... Some of them can be just like feral animal spirits that they've captured and put in jars, and the party might get 20 gold for one of those, and they could be just hanging around to spread this corrupted misery from their own, you know, tortured existence. But there can be soul jars with quite powerful souls in them, you know, from powerful adventurers they've killed, maybe old gods even, and these soul jars are actually infused into what I call blight souls, which are massive constructs made out of stone and brick and logs, armor, and they're all different, all got their own sort of vibe, almost like giant Pokemon, I guess, in a way. And they're powered by these soul jars. So top adventurers seek out these blight souls. It's almost like monster hunting to defeat them and then be able to get inside and get this soul jar that's been powering them, almost like a battery. And yeah, the Heron folk pay very well for those. Might be anywhere between 200 for a powerful soul too. I've still got to figure out the economy of it, but yeah, so at the start greed, but I'm hoping with enough story arcs and getting attached to, say, different factions like the ghost elves that live in the swamp, or the heron folk, or the druidic orders, that they'll start to want to help to stop this this corruption. And that's probably the hardest thing, to give characters a good motivation, especially if they're not playing heroes and at the start are almost playing people that are driven by greed. Yeah, got to figure out stuff like that. Okay. Might even liquefy this guy a little. I'll do another layer. Filter, liquefy. That's good. And play with some proportions. I got one of the storylines is one of the powerful blight souls, these giant constructs that roam the inner old swamp. It could be powered by someone important to the players that they knew, maybe a mentor, you know, a head of a wizard's guild, or a great adventurer that they've always admired, what have you. So their overall story arc could be figuring out what happened to the adventurer, journeying to the Swamp of Souls, not knowing that, you know, they got captured and their soul locked in the soul jar and driven mad, basically tortured and put into this powerful construct, too powerful for the party at this point. And then, yeah, it becomes clear that the party need to, eventually they'll figure out that it's what happened to this adventurer, and that they need to track down this powerful blight soul, defeat it, bring the soul jar to the heron folk monks, so the soul can finally be brought to peace, to find peace so that it can pass on. And maybe that's the start that gets the players going, and then they realize there's more of these blight souls out there. There's more of this evil corruption. The swamp is slowly being overrun by it, and so they have to travel to the heart of this swamp to stop this prophet that might be speaking on behalf of the sleeping dragon, but might not be. Might be talking for her own ends. Because her story is that she saw the dragon fall. The dragon fell from the sky. It was in a great battle. She was one of the Druidic order, and so she travelled and found this dragon, and being a sort of goody, decided she couldn't kill it. She tried to nurse it back to life, but the corruption of the black dragon ultimately twisted her, so she's kept it asleep this whole time. She probably thinks she's acting on its interests. It's a very good question. And what I've got is, yeah, they have this big meditation chamber where these jars are all lined up along the walls, and this is where they meditate to not only try bring peace over a long period of time to these souls trapped in these jars, but also they have their barrels of the black mooch in there, and that's why it's a really well sought after rice wine, because it's got this meditative chi power that goes through it as well. But when they do bring these soul jars to peace, you can tell the soul jar's like angry red, it shakes and everything when there's a angry, violent spirit in it. And they usually keep those in there, trying to bring them peace through their meditations and their chanting, and I might have to come up with some other things they do. But once they do bring them to peace, the soul jar slowly turns to a softly glowing blue, which almost demonstrates that the soul has broken out of its madness and is ready to pass on. But some of these souls, of course, want to stay behind. They don't want to pass on. They want to help other loved ones that might be trapped in the swamp, or they might want to, just stop this. They don't want it to happen to anyone else. That's what's happened to them. So the Heron folk monks, have started building constructs of their own, sort of giant, good constructs with these soul jars placed in them. And eventually the party can have these as allies, even building their own, traveling which they might even need to get into the inner depths of the swamps, because it's just so dangerous in there. And they also have in this Heron folk place little totems that still have these heads and legs and everything around the soul jar, and they've stuck around to try help and almost become like counselors and stuff for these tortured souls. It's interesting though. Could you take this soul jar, especially when it's found peace, maybe even if it is violent, and reanimate someone, or even use one of what's the spell? Is it the resurrect spell? Is it the big guy that you can do without any time limit? So that could be a whole thing as well, to resurrect someone who died in the swamp. I'd be quite keen on having that, because it makes it so much more time invested to resurrect someone, rather than just casting a spell and you're alive again. If you have to go into the swamp and track them down and maybe destroy the powerful blight soul that it's running, I think that'll be really cool. And then eventually you can use that soul to reanimate, either as, say, some sort of human-like construction, or maybe you've kept the body in stasis all this time. And again, that can be another hook for the players, you know, someone important to them's died. They've heard about this way that souls are being infused into constructs. It's a good one for, like, if you're playing, say, a Warforged character or something. Ah, yeah, that's true. Well, if they do, you know, so much time and effort to do it, maybe that cost can be ignored, especially if the Heron Folk monks are doing it. They're pretty rich with their wine. But it could be a good backstory for, say, a Warforged or something, right? That's the soul that's been infused into this Warforged. If you have Warforged in your games. Might darken this guy a bit. Push his values back. Touch the edges there. Do you run your adventures? It's Dr. Lava cookies, right? Yeah, Dr. Lava cookies. Do you run your adventures or are you a player in them? Should start to get a bit of colour in here too, so I can start solving that. These guys will probably be mainly green. Too much green. But we can sort that out later. Whoop. Ah, that's really cool. We actually do that too. I've been running a campaign. This campaign, I've been testing it out on my players for 2 or 3 years. And we got to a point where they're about to push in, but it's getting pretty heavy, and had another guy who's been working on his own setting, so it's been really good. I've been a player for about 3 months now. It's quite nice. No prep. Just turn up, start playing. Yeah, I enjoy both, I think. I enjoy both. I give this ghost elf a bit of colour. It's going to have red paint. I'll give him a red loincloth as well. Maybe dark brown. And where have you put your setting? Is it a like a whole world at this point, or is it just a set location? Say like a swamp or a corner of the world to start off with. It's pretty daunting to do a whole world. Let's go. It's a bit of a chunky boy. I'm gonna make him skinnier. Oh, no. That sounds really cool. Yeah, I think it's one of the coolest things you can do. Just give yourself a world building project. Start doing it. He's feeling quite cool, my little ghost elf. Of course, needs some more colour and everything in this guy. Long way to go. Got details I've got to add. The background's very rough. I'll define that. I do want to hint at the rest of the swamp. So it might even be things like gnarled and twisted trees here. I might push the opacity back. The value's a bit dark for that, but you know, I can start to shapes and stuff going on here. That's it. Too dark at the moment, but I'll just push that back for now. It's not ideal. Okay, so I might leave this here for this stage. It's good progress. Basically going from whatever I had here, a lizard man on a crop, and I've got them up to here. All values do need a lot of work. I'd like to make, I can do that now. So do another layer, push the values there. And then even erase some of that layer, just so the ghost elf almost looks luminescent. And I can paint in some, by deleting stuff, I can paint in a little bit of extra edge lighting. And yeah, I'll push the rest of that. Probably give them a glowing red eye or something there. Oh, I can just paint in some extra detail here. Okay, so yeah, that's going to be stage 2. Got them to there. Long ways to go, but I think I've got strong shapes. Ugh, still needs work, yeah. But I'm kind of happy with that progress. I'm quite happy with him, his pose and stuff. And the lizard man. The crocodile is going to need some work. And separating out this tree trunk so it doesn't feel like part of the crocodile will be some work. I could even cheat and curve it more so it's kind of a cool shape. But yes, really appreciate you guys watching, and yeah, Dr. Lava Cookies for commenting. Makes it way more engaging when I chat, so I feel like I'm not chatting to myself. And thanks, man. Yeah, I think the crocodile needs a lot of work, but the two guys are pretty cool, their shapes. And yeah, the background, of course. So I hope to see you again in my next stream. I don't schedule them or anything. It's just when I feel like drawing, I'll jump on. But appreciate it. And I'll hopefully talk to you later. Cheers. Oh. Ooh, the stump. Like a face. I like that. It could even have a soul jar in it. Like there could be a glow. And they're both almost fighting over it. That could be the... I think that's an awesome idea because you can almost see the face here. Eye, bit of mouth. I think I'm going to do that. I really actually like that. Yeah. See ya, and you give me a great idea for the next one. That's cool. All right.